Hello, welcome back here into Caden's Weather Center. Today is September 3rd, 2025. Continuing to pay attention right now here to the tropics. We have two systems out in the Pacific side, as well as one tropical wave that could possibly form later this week into this weekend here in the Atlantic side. Are there possible threats here to land from the Atlantic side? Well, we'll pay attention to that, but we know the Pacific side does have potential threats already to the land, so we're going to continue to pay attention to that. We have landfall potentials already continuing on for the Pacific. We're going to dig deeper into that and dig deeper with the models, and as well as paying attention to some cooler temperatures that is expected here in the northern part of the United States, as well as a slight severe weather risk continuing on parts of Kansas and Missouri today. Right now, let's dig right into this video. So let's take a look first at what we're looking at right now. What are we looking at around the United States? Well, we obviously can see right here, according to the radar, Michigan really getting some rainfall today. We can clearly see some scattered showers and moisture continuing to head into the Florida Peninsula here. And we know that there is some scattered showers and thunderstorms also continuing on right over here in the Mississippi, Louisiana area. Our biggest concern, obviously, we're going to have this low pressure system that's sitting over here. Cooler temperatures are going to come in right after this rainfall right here. The rainfall will eventually make its way over here into the northeast, could pose a threat there for slight flash flooding, but those cooler temperatures are already starting to move in here as we do have that trough that is really starting to bring some of those cooler temperatures with that rainfall that is continuing on in Michigan. We know that Michigan, your rainfall will start to really kind of pick up, especially later on this evening and maybe the Detroit area, and that will eventually, as we head into tomorrow, make its way kind of into the northeast here in the Ohio Valley. We can already see a northern part here of Indiana. We're already starting to see some of that heavy rainfall there. Taking a look at some tropical moisture kind of continuing on over here in the Florida Peninsula, we can see some rain that will eventually make its way inland here and eventually, kind of just bring some rainfall here to the state of Florida. Now, not too much rainfall is expected, but we can see right now, according to the radar, there is some slight thunderstorms continuing on over here north of Miami. So, something to keep an eye out on very closely there. Now, let's take a look here at the satellite for the United States. What are we looking at? Obviously, there's our very big trough right there. That's kind of hanging out over here with the northern part of the United States. We can see our tropical system down here. That's going to eventually make its way into Baja California and then eventually make its way into the United States here now as a remnant low. So not a tropical threat, anything for Arizona or New Mexico. But eventually, as this storm kind of heads into the United States here as a remnant low, that's going to bring some possible flash flooding issues continuing on over here in the central part of the United States. And we're going to pay attention to that here very closely as well. Seeing a lot of thunderstorms kind of hanging out over here in the Gulf here, where it's kind of, once again, just kind of pushing its way into Florida. That's raising some of the chances here for some rainfall chances in the Florida Peninsula, but not too much going on. Now, very quiet in our area where we're expected the severe weather threat today. And you kind of can see that here from the Storm Prediction Center. Slight weather risk is expected here in Kansas and Missouri, with the marginal risk stretching all the way from here from western Illinois down here into the Texas Panhandle. We could clearly see that there is a chance for some severe weather today. Tornado threat, very, less likely for a major tornado or anything like that, but we can definitely see that there is a 2% chance, so definitely cannot rule out maybe a 1 or 2 tornado warnings there. Our biggest concern today will be the hail threat, as we're expecting some significant hail right here in the Kansas area and parts of even maybe western Missouri. We could be seeing some pretty big hail in that area, possibly reaching up to golf ball and maybe even bigger sized hail with that. Now, taking a look at the future radar before we head into the tropics, let's take a look at that. The HRRR model here for the Northwest, we can see very, relatively quiet. Maybe some of those rainfall threats that are going to, rainfall, not threat, but rainfall potential will just kind of continue on over here to the northwest. That will include Oregon here and parts of Nevada as well. We're going to be continuing to pay attention to the rainfall there. Now, eventually, we're going to see some rainfall kind of chances kind of head up from Mexico here into the Arizona, New Mexico area. That is not from the tropical system, but there's our tropical system here as we head into 7 a.m. tomorrow. We're starting to see some of those rainfall really starting to ramp up here in Mexico, and that will eventually make its way over here into the United States, and that's why we're going to be paying attention to that possibility for some flash flooding threat. Taking a look at the trough that is happening in the northern part of the United States, Michigan expected to continue to get some big showers and thunderstorms as we head into later this evening as well. That will include the Detroit metro area. As we head into the overnight hours, Indiana, Illinois, and even still eastern Michigan expected to continue to get some of those rainfall kind of just continuing on. Now, as we head into tomorrow morning for people heading off to work, Ohio, and even parts of Kentucky, really could be seeing a big line of storms and maybe some rain showers here at some, possible heavy rain showers at times, but not most likely to be too big of a concern. But we can see that as we head into the early morning hours, we are expecting this to continue to move off to the east here, but it will be a very raining day for the Ohio Valley as we head into tomorrow. Heading down to the south central here of the United States, we can see our severe weather risk is expected to kind of pick up as we head into later this evening. Kind of can see a little bit of scattered showers, thunderstorms once again, maybe around 8 p.m. here, maybe 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. That's going to be our biggest time for the severe weather risk to kind of ramp in. Then we're going to kind of see a high pressure kind of build in over here to the north, maybe some cooler temperatures digging far into the south as well. Now heading to the northeast, we could clearly see the potential, obviously right there. We have a high pressure that's kind of sitting over here. That's kind of blocking the rain. That will eventually move its way off there as this trough kind of pushes it out, and that will kind of make the rain chances continue to go up here in this general area, stretching all the way maybe from, Virginia, even parts of northern North Carolina and Tennessee, all the way up here into Maine. We're going to see that trough kind of really dig in, and that's going to bring those cooler temperatures obviously into the Michigan area right there. As we head into early tomorrow, we're going to be seeing some of those temperatures starting to drop. Now the southeast, you can see very quiet, relatively quiet around here of the south of the United States with a high pressure. But then eventually we'll start to see, once again, that trough kind of builds in. We're going to see some scattered showers, thunderstorms over here, but our main concern will be up here more to the north, bringing in some of those rain showers and thunderstorms with that trough that is coming in. Then we'll see some of those cooler temperatures kind of head in. Now, for Florida, we're still seeing a lot of that, possible moisture kind of just heading in. So scattered showers, thunderstorms are expected to kind of just continue on throughout today and maybe even heading into tomorrow as well. So let's take a look here at the satellite picture right now of this hurricane kind of continuing on right now. It is a very weak hurricane at this time of the recording of this video. This is Hurricane Lorena. We can obviously see convection was really blowing up earlier this morning, not as strong. I think it's going to be trying to go through an eye wall replacement cycle as it is starting to strengthen slightly. That will eventually make its way over here to the north, and we're going to see that kind of make that northeast jog here very soon. Probably here, maybe as we head into tomorrow, we'll start to see that northeast jog. The National Hurricane Center still expecting that hurricane strength, maybe slightly stronger here. We are seeing an 80-mile-an-hour hurricane moving northwest at 16. Tropical storm warnings still continuing on over here, as well as tropical storm watches just in case if the wind field does expand. But that will eventually once again make its way into the Baja California, become a remnant low as a depression here as it gets into parts of northern Mexico. And then as the remnants make its way in, that could bring some heavy rainfall here to Arizona, New Mexico, but really starting to pay attention to the rainfall potential here in Texas, Oklahoma, as well as even Kansas, as the remnant low will make its way across the United States there. And we kind of can see that here with the spaghetti model tracks. Now, obviously, we don't exactly know where the landfall is expected to kind of happen, but we can definitely see that there's different scenarios here from that. But we obviously do know that this is going to bring some heavy amounts of rainfall here into the Mexico and Baja California region. We can see in these little orange spots right here, that could bring 6 to 8 inches of rain in some areas right there, and that could bring up, really some maybe 2 to 4 inches of rain as it heads inland, and that could bring some potentials here once again for some of that flash flooding, especially if you live in, Tucson here, and maybe even heading into New Mexico as well. Taking a look at this hurricane out here in the Central Pacific, this is Hurricane Kiko. We could clearly see, let's go back to the satellite Hurricane Kiko. You could see well-defined hurricane, expected to become a major hurricane there. Definitely building up its eye wall here on the southern side of the eye here. We're going to see the storm obviously continuing to move off to the west here, and that does bring it pretty close to the Hawaiian Islands. Now, it's still a little very far out, but we are expecting a major hurricane here. Right now, very slight chances here. If it goes up 1 more mile an hour, it will be considered as a major hurricane there, but will eventually make its way off to the west here and kind of make more of a northwestward jog. We'll kind of see what happens with that, but you kind of can see on how spread out that cone still is, as the models are still a little bit spread out here, but right now moving west at 7, so not moving insanely fast. But Hawaii, you do see some of those models, the red model, the blue model, those are our main operational runs that do bring it into the possible right north of the big island here, and possibly brings it in to just Hawaii. We could be seeing a lot of, once again, from the last video that I had, a lot of that surf could really start to pick up, but now we could possibly be seeing some tropical storm conditions maybe here in the Hawaii area. It all depends on how fast this system could start to deteriorate, and that's kind of what we're looking at here. We could see is expected to possibly get up to that range here of maybe it does consider as a category 3, maybe expected to get to a category 4 of what the National Hurricane Center is saying, and then we'll gradually kind of go downhill here. We could see by the 120-day mark, we are expecting to see maybe a high-end category 1 hurricane, So possibly by the time that it possibly could impact Hawaii here, we could be expecting maybe a low end to a mid tropical storm there. So still once again to pay attention to. Now the GFS model, we could see bringing in a strong storm right there, still 981 millibars, still nothing to joke about as it continues to kind of make that northwestward jog there, maybe west-northwest. GFS brings it in as maybe a tropical storm, maybe a very slight tropical storm just north of the islands here, and this is as the 12Z GFS model run. The European model run, you can kind of see, I don't know if the 12Z is out yet, not yet, but you can see with the 6Z Euro model run, bringing it maybe a little bit stronger here than the GFS model, but bringing it more off to the south, it kind of seems like here, or actually kind of now starting to follow what the GFS is saying. So very big, confidence maybe starting to go maybe north of the islands, but getting very close according to the GFS, which could bring some possible big impacts here to the islands. Now we'll obviously pay attention to that as we head, maybe for the next 2 days before we even see Hawaii could possibly be in the forecast cone. Now, heading over to the Atlantic side, we're expecting the Atlantic hurricane season to really pick up. We know the peak of the hurricane season is next week here. We've been watching this all season. We've barely had any tropical activity. We're still, waiting for our next system. This is expected to possibly be Tropical Storm Gabrielle as we head into later this weekend. We could see a tropical depression is likely to form late this weekend, and that will eventually kind of make its move off to the west here. And it does say it's kind of moving off to the west-northwest, expected to move westward and off to the west-northwest. That does put the Leeward Islands here and possibly maybe even Puerto Rico here in the future for some possible development there and some possible rainfall. So regardless of the development, we can very see possible rainfall potential to really start to pick up in this general area, and we're going to kind of see that as it continues to move off to the northwest kind of area here. Now the 12Z Euro ensembles models, we can clearly see as we head into the 5-day mark, we could see a lot more of a southern kind of or a westward kind of push here. And that really could put some, big question marks as we go over here to the Leeward Islands. Taking a look 7 days out, maybe more of a west-northwest kind of motion here, kind of goes over the islands as of the Euro ensembles of the brand new ones that just came out here not too long ago. Now, we have been also paying attention to something over here. A couple models did bring in something into the Gulf, but right now we're not going to pay attention to that too much. But we can clearly see that we are expecting the storm to really continue to move off to that west, then we'll eventually still kind of make that northern turn. So still, we are expecting that northern curve to, happen and the storm to go out to sea, but obviously the storm is very far out still, so we could be seeing a lot of changes. Now, taking a look at the GFS ensembles, we can clearly see with the GFS ensembles, they start to go off to that northern turn. We have a tropical wave kind of sitting behind it, not maybe as strong as this one, but expecting to possibly have a hurricane, but goes off to the north here. And you kind of can see that here, but with this spread that we're kind of still seeing with this tropical system, right now it is too far out to be sure and exactly on where it could be heading. So the 12Z GFS definitely was a little bit more of a scarier model run here. 980 millibars here on September 9th, the peak of the hurricane season on September 10th. That makes its way off here to the west-northwest. Doesn't get pulled to the north here due to a high pressure that's possibly kind of building in here. That's going to kind of block it from really kind of going up to the north here, but does bringing it into the once again the South Carolina coast. But once again, this is not a forecast. This is too far out to be sure. So you can clearly see that this is one scenario here according to the GFS. Majority of the GFS runs has had it out, so we'll have to keep an eye out on what the 18Z model run is, but I wouldn't be too worried if you live in the Carolinas and you just saw that model run there. Taking a look at the Euro model, still haven't had that 12Z model out, but we'll take a look at the EC fast here really quickly. But you can clearly see 955 millibars, so possibly could be really starting to maybe rapidly intensify as it heads into the MDR, and it continues to move off to the west here, possibly into the Caribbean. Now, taking a look at the 12Z model run, we kind of can see this does have the storm kind of heading into the Caribbean, does bringing possibly impacting the Leeward Islands really possibly as a major hurricane, and then does get pulled to the north. Now, obviously, if the storm does go through the Dominican Republic and maybe even eastern Cuba, that will weaken the storm pretty significantly because we know that there's obviously some very high terrain in that region, but still the big question obviously is we need to wait for that main model run there. But once again, taking a look at the satellite, we can clearly see Not too much. We can't even see the system yet on our satellite from this view, but we can see there's that hurricane right there that is heading to the Pacific, or to possibly heading to Hawaii, and then we have Hurricane Lorena as well, continuing to move off to the northwest, and will eventually kind of make its that northeast turn. So thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to follow my X page down in the description, as I will be posting frequent updates here on the tropics here as we head more into the peak of the hurricane season. If you did enjoy this weather update, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and if you do have any questions, make sure to leave it down in the comments, and I will try to answer them to the best I possibly can. But I thank you guys all for watching this video today. Make sure that you are staying tuned with the National Hurricane Center as well as your local National Weather Service. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Stay safe, and bye-bye.